Welcome back to another episode of the Phoenix Truth Rising Show. This is the Spaceman 2.0, here to help you grow in the knowledge and truth and wisdom so that we can understand the truth, and the truth shall set us free. So with that being said, let this be part 12, or part 13, sorry, continuing on from part 12, from here to Armageddon. I am Ashtar. So let's just go back to improving the breed. I'm just going to start from because of the part. Okay, so because of the part which the fallen astral entities had played in the temptation of man, it was decided that a portion of each of the ones who had engineered the debauchery would be removed from them, and then distributed among all of the human beings in proportions which were just sufficient to allow each human entity to hold itself together as an independent unit. Although this distribution did succeed in bolstering the self-picture of humans to the necessary degree, it also had a negative effect. By incorporating into each human being a small part of one of the fallen beings, there was planted in each human a seed of negativity that could, unless purified and cleansed, lead to a downward spiral for that human entity. Can you begin to relate to the inbred unbalance of the fallen energies as to quantity of presence? The plan was explained fully to the human group before it was implemented, and all human entities agreed. It was promised that in order to compensate for the addition of the negative seeds to mankind, other members of the astral groups, ones that had not taken part in the crossbreeding, would act as guides and guardians for human beings up until the end of the specified reincarnational arrangement. Ones beginning this cycle of experiences would be somewhat locked in to the cycle of the entire cycling upon a single planet. It is only recently, so to speak, that ones of you who have passed on into the higher evolved dimensions of ethereal progression have volunteered to return to this cycle of experience, to bring transition to the human life forms. Enter the Dark Brotherhood. Among the astral beings whose vibrations were particularly low were several that could not be fragmented in the manner just described. They were the main instigators of the debauchery and the evil teachings that were conveyed to mankind, and for the part they played, the karmic burden was very heavy. These beings were allowed to serve the advancement of the human race in another way, by directing a brotherhood whose duty it would be to try again and again to tempt man away from purity and spiritual advancement. The function of these entities would be to draw the weaker specimens off the path, so that those who remained strong could constitute a group of uniformly dedicated entities who had passed through the tests of selfishness and materialism and had quite won. The brotherhood formed is that which we now call the Dark Brotherhood, or DB. Although the worst of the fallen astral beings did not contribute fragments to the individuating of the human race, there were others whose vibrations were also extremely low and who did contribute. There was then a problem as to how to decide which of the human group would receive these particularly dark fragments. It was realized that any who had allowed such darkness into themselves ran a greater risk of failure because of the darkness within. Therefore, it was decided that those who volunteered to accept these darkest fragments would be helped in two ways. They would also receive a fragment from one of the astral beings who had not fallen and who had remained pure, and two, they would be given special help throughout their series of incarnations. I hope I am not taking away all your fun and mystery. There are still human beings on the earth right now who were these special volunteers. Recognize anyone? They are generally those who appear to have more essence or spirit than others. Often they are responsible for the greatest good, but also for the greatest evil. Some among them lost the battle which they had assumed and became the worst of men. Others succeeded and became the best. The Black Brotherhood, BB, drew its members mainly from the astral entities who had fallen, but some of them are souls who were originally human, who had received the powerful dark fragments along with the light, and whose had allowed the temptations of flesh existence, materialism, and selfishness to draw them into the downward spiral, which can only be halted at death of the human physical body, followed by recleansing on the astral planes of learning. They carried enough unified essence as a result of the extra contributions to remain individualized, even in the very difficult vibrations where the DBBs are confined, an environment in which most human souls could not be sustained. I will speak of the confinement of the DBBs next. So DBs or Dark Black Brotherhood, or they said Black Brotherhood, they just don't mean color skin, they mean actually the color of the soul, okay, if it's going towards evil. So let's not get that confused, misunderstood. So where are they? In the astral realms are found many regions, which are distinct one from the other. Some overflow with light and warmth of spiritual wisdom. Others are completely permeated by darkness and despair, along with hatred and desires for revenge. The latter regions are relatively small and are locations where the basest and coarsest souls and entities are either drawn or specifically confined. Bad news, human brothers, the darker levels are akin to the earth plane in vibration. Because of this vibrational similarity, the influence of the dark inhabitants upon those in incarnation on the earth is particularly strong. For example, many souls who die after a life of addiction to drugs, drunkenness, and debauchery are attracted to the lowest of the astral areas, and from there can influence and, in a sense, obsess those who are still in the alive physical format. Their victims are only those who suffer from the same weaknesses, and who frequent bars, brothels, and other locations of coarseness and debauch. And you once thought it was in your genes. Oops, genes. Sick, sick. The discarnate souls attach themselves to their victims from the astral side and are unable to participate vicariously in the old habits by urging these unfortunates to indulge as they also had once done. Beyond a given point, you can be completely possessed and therefore forfeit any control over yourselves. Do you see perhaps why we plead, preach, and insist on moderation in all activities and intake? You can become a helpless pawn in the clutches of the satanic demons, in drunkenness, etc. You will be struck harder if you are what we call a worker and an etheric being involved in this transition circumstance. How better to get ya? They will cause you to take actions which will ensure your own human counterparts, police and justice system, take you out or cause you to take yourself out through suicide or accident. Can that be anything close to what we have going on this day with something called gang stalking? The path of progress. I should note here, however, that these dark souls who are in the lowest and darkest astral levels are not confined permanently to those levels. If at any time they are able to raise their vibrations and spiritual insight high enough to gain access to the lighter and warmer levels, then they are welcomed into those levels.